Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing everything complexion. So if you struggle with contouring, getting that natural but snatched look, stay tuned. This is going to be a super long talk through, so we're just going to get started because I don't want to make this video any longer than it's already going to be. So we're starting with already clean, toned, and moisturized skin. This pimple is living here rent-free. I've tried to evict it. It won't go, so we just gotta go with it. So we're gonna start with primer, and I'm using the Cover FX mattifying primer. This is my #1 go-to primer. I have pretty oily skin, so I like to use something that has a mattifying effect. It just helps keep the oil in control and helps stop me from looking shiny where I don't want to be shiny. So even if I'm doing a dewy look, I still go for a mattifying primer. After I get my primer on, I just like to take a damp beauty blender and just press it in just a little bit and pick up any of the excess. Sometimes when you use too much primer, it can slide around and kind of counteract what it's supposed to be doing. We're gonna go in with the Pat McGrath highlighting stick. I feel like this thing looks like it has seen better days, but this thing is bomb, so I keep using it. So I'm going to just swipe it on the points of my face that I like to be highlighted. And this is gonna help give you that like lit from within, that natural radiance that you can't always get with a powder highlighter after you've done everything. This is pretty much my everyday makeup routine. This is how I like to typically do it. You can use a sponge for this, but I like using my fingers. I think it moves around a little bit better whenever I just kind of melt it in with my fingers. Before we put on foundation, I'm gonna spray setting spray. I'm using Milani Make It Last. This is gonna help keep the highlighter where we put it so it's not sliding everywhere when we're putting on our foundation. For foundation, I'm using Fenty Beauty's Pro Filter, and I'm in shade 410. And I like to pump this either onto my hand or onto kind of a little palette thing. So this is one that came with an Anastasia lip kit. Obviously, I'm not using it for my lips, but I like to use it for my face products so I can pick them up in the amounts that I want. And I'm gonna apply this with a flat foundation brush. And we're gonna swipe down on these portions of the face and swipe across on the forehead. You wanna try to stay away from where you apply that highlighter. It's not the end of the world if you put foundation over it, but you wanna leave as much of that alone as you can. That pimple is just, it just won't let me live. And it hurts. Like, you get one of those ones that hurts. It's like, it's bad enough that it's there, but then it has the nerve to like be painful. Like, get out of here. I'm just tapping on a little bit down the nose because obviously we put the highlighter down this area, but I still want some coverage. So instead of sweeping more, I'm just tapping it on. Then any areas where I feel like I need a little more coverage, like I like a little more coverage right down here, like right here, right there. I'm just gonna tap the foundation in to kind of amp up the coverage a little bit. For the highlight, I'm using the Pat McGrath Labs Concealer in shade MD22. And I think this is the most important tip if you want a very natural highlight and contour. You want to use a highlight shade that's not too light. Just light enough to give you some lift, but not so light that it makes it look very extreme. And the more natural a color you select, the less you'll have to do with everything else to make it all like come together. I'm just using a very tiny dab, like you see. Like, this is like almost barely anything. And a fluffy concealer brush, I'm just gonna buff it out. I'm trying to stay away from that pimple because like we don't want to make that any more noticeable than it already is. I'm gonna do down the nose also. And like the very top of my forehead, not too high up there. And again, I'm using a very little amount. You don't need to draw like super thick lines. Just a few little dots will give you the right amount of lift, again, without being dramatic. If you want it, you know, more natural, more everyday, like you, but like the best version. I also go under my nose because this area can get a little dark on me. we're gonna start the under eye. I don't know why I'm talking like this. And just a few sweeps under the eye. And I'm really just patting it in under my eye versus like sweeping motions just to maintain the coverage. And I also like to go onto my lid because your concealer can serve as your eyelash. Your concealer can serve as your eyeshadow primer. So if you just have any excess and you wipe it on your eye lid, then that's one step that's out the way for you when you start your eyeshadow. And you're not wasting product. So on the edges, like you can see here how there's a bit of an edge. I don't want to go too far over into where we put that highlighter, but I am going to buff this out. So you can see it's just softening that edge there. So you can see this is like a very natural lift. Like I've got some lift here, you know, some brightness here, like it's not a lot, but it's just right. For contour, I'm gonna use Flesh Beauty's Pure Flesh foundation, and I'm using shade 39, which is Coffee. Again, I'm just gonna pump this onto my little palette. That's more than I'll need. I got this on sale from Ulta, and I think it was like $3, so I don't feel bad about using more than I need. And I'm just taking a very fluffy brush, and I'm gonna dip it in. And I like to put my contour like right here. So highlighter here, the blush will go about here, and the contour's about there. I'm just gonna buff it in. I think by using a foundation, you can get a bit of a softer contour. Now if it looks a little dark, that's okay, because we're gonna take down some of this effect when we put our powder on. So like, don't worry if yours is a little darker than you think it should be, it'll work out. I like to do the top of my forehead, especially, like I think I'm gonna do like a high bun. And listen, I got a big old forehead, so we're just gonna contour a little of that in. And a little on the jawline. Before we set the under eye concealer, I've got one more thing. So I'm gonna add a cream blush. So the cream blush, so we got the highlight here, right? Bam. Contour, bam. Cream blush, pow, right there. A very little bit, again, only using tiny amounts. And this is NYX Sweet Cheeks. And this is the color Bombshell, baby. And I'm just using a tiny stippling brush to blend this in. So once we apply our setting powder and everything, like if you don't want to apply a blush, you won't necessarily have to. But if you do apply a blush, it'll kind of amp it up a little bit, so you don't need as much. We're going back to that under eye. I'm just gonna take the same brush and smooth out any creases that have appeared since we last touched it, and then go ahead and apply the setting powder. I'm using the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Blurring Under Eye Powder in Deep, and a Beauty Blender Pocket Blender to put it on. And I'm trying to keep the powder away from that highlighter. Like, it's inevitable that some of it is gonna touch the highlighter. Like, it just is, but as little as possible. This powder like almost melts into your skin. It's such a beautiful powder. I'm gonna set my foundation with the Cover FX setting powder. This is the matte setting powder in the color Deep. Yep, Deep. And I'm using a Real Techniques multitask face brush, and we're just gonna tap this in. By tapping it in, you help prevent things from moving around. So I'm really just patting it on top where I need to set. And I'm not using a whole lot on the brush. And again, we're still gonna try to stay away from this highlight. You can see it's still like beaming. It's still there. We wanna keep it there. So we're gonna stay away from that. Then I like to go in with the Cover FX foundation. This is the Pressed Mineral Foundation in color G100. And I like to use the same method and just tap it on top. And I feel like this prolongs the life of my makeup and gives it a more like, flawless finish. It seems like it would make it cakey, but it doesn't. Trust me. This is a step that like, this is a major key. Major key right here. Then we're gonna use MAC Mineralized Skin Finish. This is a lot of powder, I know, but we're not using large amounts of the powder, so it's okay. It's okay, it's fine. So I'm using MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in dark golden, and I'm only gonna put this on the areas where I want some of that glow. So even though we did the setting powder down here, like I said, that powder melts. So I'm just gonna tap a little of this on top, which will also help it melt in a little more, like a little here. And then I'm gonna tap it on top where I put that blush. And this doesn't have like a major glow factor. It's like a little extra radiance, but not dramatic. And finally, the last powder, the final powder, Hourglass Ambient Light. I'm using dim light, and this is like a holy grail. This powder, it's like a highlight, but like a dim highlight, like kind of a duller version. It has the most beautiful glow, and I like to put this on top of where we put that highlighter, and it gives like a very natural radiance. So like you can see as I'm using it, like building it up, you can see that radiance coming in. I love this. And it's not like shimmery, it's not shiny like a highlighter is. So you can see here where we have it, and where we don't have it. I like to highlight just right here, and just a little there. And then I'm just gonna take it in a couple little circular motions and just buff it in a little more. Now you see like we've got a natural radiance going that's not like glittery. It's like very, you look like this, but you don't, but like people might think that you do. And that's okay, let them. I'm gonna do my brows and eyeshadow while this bakes, and then we're gonna come back and finish it up. I'm glad you're sticking with me because we're in the home stretch. We are almost done. Okay, so now we just have to sweep away that baking powder. Well, not like baking powder, but you know, the powder we were baking with. And like I said, a lot of this powder melts into the skin already, so like there's not much to sweep away here, and just really just this direct under eye area where we want to buff it on in there. And using that same fluffy brush that we used for our liquid contour, I'm going in with this Tarte Makeup Shayla contour palette. This thing is super old, hopefully not expired. But I mean, it doesn't bring me out. This is not from that. I don't know what that's from. We're just lightly going over the areas where we applied that liquid contour. I'm using a Makeup Forever blush. It's from this little duo I made. I don't know what color this is, but it's like a kind of like a rosy pinkish kind of color. And I'm just gonna apply that over where we put that cream blush. And you can see that's really bringing out the color. So like you can see here where I put blush on top and here where I haven't, and it's still, there's still a little color under there. But if you want, you know, that blush look, obviously, put some blush over top of it. And you want to make sure that you buff it in really nicely so you don't have any harsh edges. And these steps are kind of extra, like after sweeping off that powder, if you're cool with everything, you could be done. So if you're running late, like if you don't have a lot of time, you could just sweep off that powder and just go. And I'm gonna go in with the Pat McGrath highlighter. This is from that same duo as that cream highlighter I used at the very beginning, and just add a little highlight. So I'm just focusing right in this little area right here. And again, you don't need a lot of this because we already put the ambient light on, so we're already glowing, but if we want a little extra, this is what that is. So you can see here versus here, like there's a little more glow in this area that we've added in there. I like to just add a little on the nose. And that's it. This is the final, hold up. Wait a minute. Now this is the final look. I set everything so it can last all day long with the Milani Cosmetics Make It Last Matte finish spray, and this has charcoal in it, so it helps control the oil if you're oily like me. But you can see the end result is glowy, radiant, natural, but still kind of snatched, you know. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you check back in on Fridays because that's when I drop new videos. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.